All right, hey gang, so Coach Gaglione here. Last video we chatted about spinal flexion. Now we're gonna talk about spinal extension and why you might wanna do that in terms of your training. So in terms of training the trunk, in order to have a stable core, we also want a strong core. So in another video, we'll talk about kind of isometric exercises to work pure stability. Last video, we talked about more of the strength of the abdominals. Now we're gonna talk about strengthening the low back. So just like with spinal flexion, spinal extension, you want to be careful with, and again, only using a range of motion that you have, that you can own, and that you could, and in terms of the training, what you could tolerate. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate what it might look like for somebody that would have some function of their legs, and then we're going to have Garrison demonstrate from the side. So if I could have my legs kind of out in front of me, and again, I could start here. And I would just start with my own body weight. So I'm going to come round over as much as I can. And I'm going to think about bringing my vertebrae closer together. And I'm going to arch my low back one segment at a time. And I can start with just through active extension and then active flexion. So right now I'm shortening the muscles of my erector spinae. And now I'm lengthening here. If I want to add more resistance, I can have my hands out like this. So I'm just starting off with just my body weight as the resistance. And what's nice about doing this from a seated position, it kind of takes your glutes out of the equation, because your glutes can kind of assist in hip extension, which can kind of help kind of drive lumbar extension. So we're just going to kind of try to take our hips out of the equation. And then I could also come here. And then eventually I can hold a dumbbell. And then for Garrison, we're just gonna work on just his body weight today. So I can hold a dumbbell like so, or like so, whatever's kind of comfortable for you. So I'm gonna hold it like this. Hold the contracted position for a second, and then lower slow. So if my goal is to kind of be able to hold maybe a better arch on the bench press, for example, this could be something that you may want to add into your routine, and just some general low back strengthening. Going to keep these more for higher reps, and again, we're not going to do a ton of weight on these. So we're going to watch Garrison from the side. So you're going to, what I want you to do is start with this position, and let's do 3 reps. So it's when you round over as much as you can. So I just want you to think about driving your hands down to the floor.
Yeah, this is like my
and then, yep, and then come up. So same thing, let's actually, and we're gonna strap him into his, strap him in a little bit, give him a little bit more support. Good, so let's come down.
Okay, much better.
And then I want you to kind of arch into, the chair.
Like this?
Yep.
And then up.
And then look up and then arch and think about your lower back. And yep, raise up, extend, come up, keep going. And a way to kind of arch a little bit over the chair.
Okay.
And hold that position for a second. Good. Now let's do it with the arms crossed.
Got you.
Right there. And I come up. So this one's going to be a little bit more tricky because he's not going to have as much support as like I would from the hips, and then come back down.
Okay.
And now let's try it. Let's do 5 reps here. Perfect. Now hands to the foreheads. Good. Feel okay?
Woo, this is a workout.
Yeah. So you feel that kind of, where do you feel it?
Well, like a loose stability towards like the pelvic area once it gets real low.
Okay, just come back slow. And a lot of times he's going to be working very hard also on the lowering portion, on the eccentric, because his lower back has to control and almost breaking himself on the way down. So you may even feel it good, and we're going to stop there. So once we kind of get kind of arched over the chair, we're going to stop. So we're just kind of pre-stretching the abs a little bit, and let's come back down.
All right.
And you should, for you, Garrison, you should probably feel kind of a sensation kind of in the middle of the back.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you feel it?
Yeah.
So for him, I don't think he needs to add weight, but he could hold like a light dumbbell in front of him. And then let's do 2 more.
It's pretty good right here.
Yeah, good. So just the weight of his hands is good for him. Some people you might need to start with just the arms crossed. So this is going to be kind of primarily working the low back. He could also do this on the floor and kind of, we call that kind of a Superman position. And notice that he's not kind of assisting with his arms to kind of like shove him into a position that he wouldn't normally be able to get to. He's controlling this just with his muscle tension. Excellent. And relax. So that's kind of how you could train your low back, and you could do these completely seated. So and if I wanted to kind of add some resistance from a forward position, I could put a band kind of around him. I don't think he would need to do that yet, but just to kind of show you guys what that would look like. So once he's kind of comfortable with his body weight, just bring your arms up. I can provide some resistance, and then you would still cross your arms. So let's just do it, guys. I'm gonna come into it. Yeah, a little bit harder, so I can, and relax, good. So I wouldn't have him do that yet, but that's just kind of like a progression, so I can kind of pull him in. So that's going to, the band's going to give him some resisted spinal extension. I'm going to do all these core movements very slow and controlled. Lower yourself slowly, and again, only use the range of motion that you have access to. You don't need to overdo training the low back specifically, but again, if your goal is to kind of be able to hold that arch, that is spinal extension, so being able to kind of train that a little bit can be beneficial. Provide me a little bit more stability on the bench, and also just kind of doing some isometric holds. So we will do some stuff on the floor as well. We'll show you some stuff you can do on the floor, but I know sometimes that can be cumbersome, so this is some stuff you could just do with the chair. And just like a light band, find it. And if you're working with a trainer, then you could certainly kind of adjust the tension by pulling a little bit more on it or a little bit less, or use a different size of the band can be beneficial. So that's how you could train the low back.